Do all the top athletes share personality traits? Are some personalities better at sports than others? And can we change our personalities to become better? In this video, we'll go over those questions, plus we'll learn about how personality traits affect sports performance, whether there are types of personalities that perform better than others, and how we can use our personalities to enhance our performance. Hi, I'm Adam and you're watching Max Mentality, where we educate and guide athletes and performers to enhance their performance through mental optimization. But before we get started, I should let you know two things. One, this is a video based off my written article on the same topic, so if you like this video, then I invite you to check it out in the description. Two, to apply personality to sports, we'll be using a Big 5 personality model, also known as Ocean. I won't be explaining the model here though, that will make the video too long, so if you're not familiar with it, then check out my article, or just look it up somewhere else. Disclaimer aside, let's continue. Many researchers have been interested in the link between openness, absorption into one's own mental imagery, and how easily people can be hypnotized. And it's been found that there's a moderate relationship between openness and hypnotizability. This means that people with high openness tend to find new mental tools such as simulation training as being easier to pick up and implement. Openness in sports could also be a beneficial trait because it is closely related to creativity and ingenuity. I'm muddy on the exact decade, but I think it was back in the 1950s when basketball players started to jump while shooting, and it changed everything. Before players jumped off 2 feet, which let them hit better shots from further distances, players would shoot from 1 foot or both on the floor. This type of innovation stemmed from athletes with high openness who were willing to experiment. You might see this with footballers like Messi or Mbappe being able to get past defenders through creative positioning, dribbling, and pacing. Or the tennis champion who's able to stay at the top because they're always prepared to learn new skills. Being open to new experiences is fundamental for performers going to learn from others. Think about the whole coaching process. Performers surround themselves with those who are more experienced. If we want the wisdom of others to be truly beneficial, we need to be open to listening and trying new things. Even the most talented need to keep improving in order to stay ahead. However, being highly open is not always a great thing. Those with high openness can easily be led astray. Imagine an athlete who gets offered performance-enhancing drugs, or a young performer who finds himself with an explosion of newfound money and fame. And although the research is limited, openness has been associated with the use of recreational drugs. Openness is also linked with a wide range of interests, which can be a double-edged sword. If we want to reach our potential of something, it means we have to dedicate a long time to very specific things with a great amount of focus. Meaning that having lots of interests can be distracting and dilute our focus. In sports, conscientiousness is often seen as a positive personality trait. A performer who can take responsibility for their own performance is invaluable, since sometimes performers view it as a job of another person such as the coach to make them as good as they can be. However, to get where we want to be, we need to see it as our own job and the view of others as being there to facilitate our development. This is how a conscientious performer would think. This trait is also associated with perfectionism, which is not necessarily a healthy thing, but in sports, it can be a quick sign of a hired trainer. Elite level sports requires great self-discipline. Just look at the swimmers getting up at 4 a.m. for training and then going to school or work right after. You just won't be able to do that if you're not conscientious to a strong level. Those with this higher trait see their tasks on the court as their duty, and this leads to them being seen as reliable and great team players, which is why coaches love them so much. So if you're not conscientious, will you not succeed in sports? Well, no. People who are highly conscientious are usually less spontaneous. This can make them predictable, and if your opponent is predictable, it makes it easier for you to come up with ways to defeat them. Planning can be great, but many sports require those plans to be flexible. You need a plan B, a plan C, and beyond if you want to find a way to win. There is no general agreement on whether it's more beneficial to be an introvert or an extrovert. Really, there are benefits to both. So extroverts can bring a great intensity of energy to the locker room and the field, and since most sports require high amounts of energy, it's obviously important. Even in sports where physical movement is limited, such as target sports like archery or shooting, energy is still required to concentrate and play with the right amount of internal fire. This is why many captains are extroverts, since it's a role that requires somebody to be happy being the center of attention. It's a role that requires being able to communicate efficiently, inspire others, and be assertive when needed. But just imagine a team full of extroverts. It would be a total nightmare. Everyone would be competing for attention, talking over one another, trying to be assertive, and feeling unhappy when they just can't wield enough influence over the rest of the group. It just wouldn't work. This is why we need introverts also. Introverts are measured in their thinking and consider things carefully before they say them. They are less interested in being the center of attention and think more about their own performance. This can be every bit as useful as the benefits presented by extroverts. Because they enjoy working hard to help others but are less interested in receiving praise themselves, highly agreeable people can make very good coaches. They can be quite forgiving, which is important in developing others. Agreeable athletes and performers are generally very appreciative of the support they receive, which likely enhances their relationships with their coach. Agreeable performers are also likely to be seen as very professional. Those who are less agreeable are generally less interested in how others view them. This can be useful in sports as you can focus more energy on yourself rather than others. This could lead to low agreeable individuals being able to perform better in high stress or clutch situations better than their counterparts. The intensity of the emotions that one can experience can become greater when in a situation of extraordinary pressure. Sport produces these situations of enhanced pressure and stress, and it means neurotic traits are revealed greater than in life outside of sport. However, they are almost always unwelcome, both by the neurotic athlete trying to control his emotions and his teammates and coaches who are worried about his outbursts of anger. Low mental toughness can also be attributed to such individuals. They can struggle to control themselves, but the reality is that everyone becomes neurotic to some level when engaged in sports. And although it seemingly does not provide any benefits to be unstable, it can, just like the other traits, be worked on. Before I go into the gender differences in personality, I just want to announce that my free ebook called Guide to Sleep Optimization is out now. It's less than 10 pages long, and it covers all the questions that a performer might ask regarding their sleep, and it identifies more than 15 sleep patterns that you can take advantage of right away. It's simple and effective and also free. Link in the description. Usually women tend to exhibit high levels of conscientiousness, extroversion, agreeableness, and neuroticism than men. This finding was confirmed by a bunch of scientists in 2008 who measured the big 5 personality traits in almost 18,000 men and women from 55 different countries. They found that the results were consistent across nations. Although women were more neurotic than men, the difference is no more than moderate. This finding might lead to questions such as, are women better team players than men? Since on average, women score higher on social sensitivity, empathy, and emotional intelligence, it may be the case that they are better team players. However, there is no definite proof. What is definite is that it doesn't matter what gender or sex someone is, since everyone holds various degrees of personality traits. So there's this theory that personality is most different at the entrance or recreational level, but is more similar the higher the skill level. This theory is called the Personality Performance Athletic Pyramid, and it makes sense, but maybe not for the reason that you might think. Basically, more emotionally stable and extroverted individuals gravitate towards sport, and as the competitive system filters out all but the most avid and fierce competitors, those who remain have the highest levels of extroversion, stability, and sport-specific traits. Other traits commonly include commitment, self-confidence, motivation, achievement, competitiveness, learning capability, and mental toughness. Emphasis on sport-specific traits though. Some traits are more beneficial than others depending on what is needed in the type of sport. For example, elite rock climbers, when compared to lower level rock climbers, exhibit low levels of anxiety, high sensation seeking, and low emotional attachment. Another thing that needs to be emphasized is the difference between performance and non-performance traits. Although these two traits can overlap, they are somewhat separate from one another, meaning some traits that a person may have are more important than other ones depending on their sport. So even at the highest competitive levels, athletes still have differences. Just look at the contrast between Messi and Ronaldo. They both have high levels of mental toughness and discipline, which are very important and beneficial for athletic success and excellence, but they are socially different in that Messi is shyer and more introverted, whereas Ronaldo is more confident and extroverted. Another example is Dennis Rodman and Tim Duncan. They both showed high levels of commitment and motivation in their careers, however they have very different in other aspects of their personalities, with Dennis being highly energetic and Tim being more laid back. This leads us to the topic of changing personality traits to gain a better athletic advantage. This question leads to personality traits and states, and if you already don't know, traits are what we're born with. They are enduring and consistent for our lives, and states are much more situational, brief, and they fade away after some time. So regarding whether or not we can change our inborn traits, The answer is no. However, since sports is situational, a lot of traits exhibited in athletes are personality states built on foundational personality traits. That's why highly neurotic players may get overly emotional or overly stressed, since the sport environment is fundamentally stressful. But it also means that personality states can be developed or built on. We may feel very stressed when we first start playing a sport, but as we spend more time learning the ins and outs of the game and whatnot, we begin to experience less stress since we start to get better and know how to handle events properly. We get better at controlling the controllables and ignoring the uncontrollables. Of course, all of this takes time and conscious effort, but it means that no matter what kind of intricacies your personality holds, you can always maximize your strengths and minimize your weaknesses. That being said, researchers have tried to go past this and scientifically test whether personality assessments can indicate future performance success. Coaches would love to use such personality inventories as a way to filter out individuals for the best potential, and they actually have tried it before. However, no study has successfully found a relationship between personality traits and athletic ability, nor have they found a consistent link between personality and performance. There are just way too many factors that can influence performance, and personality is just one of them. Our personalities are something to be viewed as unique and advantageous, and not as an obstacle that limits our potential. My advice is to do some introspection and think back about situations that reveal what kind of person you are. Think about the advantages and disadvantages of your personality in those situations. Assess whether you can improve on a particular performance trait, and if you can, then do so. For example, if you struggle with committing to things, figure out ways to change that. Maybe build specific habits or change your environment in a way that can facilitate that positive change. Also, if you operate in a team sport, evaluate your teammates. Understanding how they commonly act can be beneficial. If you like this video, make sure to like and subscribe so that I know you guys like these type of videos. And if you're interested in learning more about personality in sports, you can check out my Twitter and my newsletter, where you can get more detailed explanations and stories about related topics. Peace.